about Singed, but do we? We can go over the base stats, the runes and masteries and items, but what I really want to go over is whether or not you should chase him, and of course the answer is don't chase him. But why? Well, he has a combination of spells that I use to remember this wonderful anagram. Every bad person in the movie is always killed.
Finally! Summer Split is here! Primetime League starts right now!
Can he do it 1 versus 3? Sabuki, there it is, the triple kill for Flandre!
Uzi able to pick one up.
Uzi picks up the double in the 2v2.
Fox Tigers lose 2-0 to Samsung, who start this season off with a bang.
Hello, and welcome back to Primetime League. I am Rivington Biz III. This Breakfast Club wannabe is David Freak Turley, but school's out for summer split.
I didn't watch Breakfast Club. I don't even know what you mean by that.
I liked it, so I like you.
Oh,
It's a
thanks.
good movie. Check it out.
I'm glad.
Format changes. We'll see both EU and NALCS step into the summer split with a snazzy new look. Kind of like David here.
Aww.
Over in Europe, the format is switching to best of 2. Games will still be on Thursdays and Fridays with 5 matches streaming across 2 streams each day. Can you handle it?
I can. Twice the games in Europe. It's going to be awesome. Maybe you'll call them G4, and they'll be super fly.
It's just exponential. Let it grow. In North America, we now have best of 3s. Plus, you've heard of Friday Night Lights. Well, now it's time for Friday Night League. Every Friday, we'll be broadcasting 2 matches live right here from Los Angeles. Well, Saturday and Sunday will feature 4 matches a day broadcast on duo streams.
Yep, and I get to be casting one of the Friday series. It's going to be awesome. I get to cast all 3 days this week. It's going to be great. I'm really excited.
Maybe we could duo sometime.
Okay. We can play normals.
No, well,
You would have to beat Diamond
I don't
5
like
to play
you as
with
much
me.
anymore.
Okay.
So let's keep rolling out with the team news. FC Schalke 04 has entered the European LCS. And for you PTL fans not up to scratch on your Bundesliga knowledge, Schalke 04 are one of the most popular football teams in Germany and one of the largest sporting clubs in the world. Pretty sweet.
Yeah, I think it's super awesome. We had Besiktas, happen back in Turkey a few years ago. We had a big soccer club or football club, based on where you are in the world, pick up teams. So, props to all the Bundesliga fans. For Schalke fans, I'm sorry. I'm more of a Bayern München fan myself, but that's okay. We can have our rivalries, but, still, I think it's super awesome that we're seeing teams like this pick up esports guys.
Nothing to do with that. In North America, we have 3 new teams competing. First is Apex, who you might remember earned their NALCS spot in the summer promotion tournament. We also have Team Envy and Phoenix One Esports, who due to recent competitive rulings, purchased their NALCS spots from Renegades and Team Impulse, respectively.
Yeah, and I think these are really interesting orgs to have in here. Envy actually have 7 esports teams and other titles, and honestly, that's cool. I mean, they have one of the best CS teams ever. It's great. Those are cool people. And honestly, I'm excited to see these owners, excited to see these rosters. Both these teams actually have a fair bit of the old rosters there.
Yes.
So if you were fans of that old squad, you have about 3/4 or 3/5 of that old team there to kind of keep cheering on. And honestly, I just hope they do well.
I'm excited. New blood to spice up the LCS is always an awesome thing. Now, when it comes to new LCS players, we could talk about all the roster swaps up here at the desk. I know Freak would love to, but it would be more fun to watch Kobe and Jat argue over them in this summer's first edition of Primetime League's This or That.
Hey guys, Jat here, joined by Kobe.
Surprise!
We're going to be doing this or that. If you remember, we did this a little bit before playoffs. It was great. Yeah. I don't remember if this or that won.
I think it was this.
We're going to be picking between 2 different options, this or that. We've never seen these before, so we're just going to get right into it. I want to see the first one. What is this? What is that? Keep their final streak alive. Yellow Star's final streak or TSM's final streak? What's more likely?
I like the improvements to Fnatic, but I also like
the really hard.
Yeah, this is a really hard one. I think TSM.
I'm going to go Yellow Star. I think there's really good teams in NA this year.
That's
and
true.
It's less likely than usual for them to make it.
But TSM, they very well could have won the finals of the last split if it wasn't for a couple
So
little
could have Yellow
mistakes.
Star, man.
Yeah, I know.
Secret
He
sauce.
could have been on that team.
This is really hard. I'm actually not too confident in either one of their
This is a
abilities.
good one, though.
Next one, this or that. Better South Koreans, EU or NA? Which
Obviously.
Blue is NA,
Obviously
right?
NA.
Yeah, it's NA. They have
that's easy.
Reignover, Huni.
Reignover plus Huni?
2 former world champions. It's not even close.
Yeah. GBM.
Next one, bigger top lane impact is impact. I don't know. That's.
I'm really excited for Quas coming back. I'm very scared as well, though, because he's had a lot of time away from the pro scene.
Yeah.
One big thing is that he's great for Swain, blah, blah, blah. Swain's amazing right now, going to get nerfed in a new patch. So
Yeah.
I actually might go with Impact, though. I might agree with you.
Yeah, I think Quas, if we're talking about Quas of 2 years ago, this would be like the perfect meta, and I'd be totally down. But,
Welcome him back with
he's
open
taken
arms.
so much time off. I feel like Impact would have
Yeah.
also his name matches. Weird choice. Break the curse. Team Liquid for 4th or TSM supports. What's the TSM support curse? They can't make it more than one split or something? Lustboy made it for like a year.
If we don't know what the curse is, then I don't know about breaking it. So I'll go with that one.
Word they can't make it through a split. So essentially, this is will Biofrost make it more than a split? Or will
I
Team
know what
Liquid
the real.
finish
This one
better than a
actually
split?
has a correct answer because Liquid had already broken their Forever Fourth curse.
Yeah, they
People
finished-
just forgot. They're like, oh, yeah, they're back to the Forever Fourth.
They finished
did
their
it
3
again.
splits in a row. It was just
It's
work
already
they
been
finished for.
broken. We'll go with that
Yeah.
one.
And the TSM curse isn't real. So we're going to keep going. The best 10-man roster.
These are getting
Apex
good.
Or Cloud9. Remember, they got Diamond Procs as a jungler.
True.
They have
but Cloud9's
Meteos and Rush.
roster, I mean, they've got Rush on the bench now, basically. High's moved over to the Challenger team as well.
Yeah.
The Challenger team for Cloud9 looks really scary.
So that means that. I'm going to go Cloud9.
Yeah, I'll agree with that one.
Their roster's stacked. I mean, Apex could do better
They
through
have
teamwork or something.
Saint and Crumbs as coaches.
But just
Great.
based off the roster, I got to give it to Cloud9.
Agreed.
More likely to be back in the starting lineup by week 3. I'm going high.
Yeah. Wasn't there
gotta
friction? Wasn't the high
Yeah,
Meteos
maybe,
thing was the whole
maybe.
reason that Meteos went off the team?
They're moving on eventually.
Now
Like, we
Meteos
don't
is
know
back.
why it's happening.
I feel like you can only have one or the other.
Peke did pretty good, but I mean, Power of Evil's good.
I'm gonna go with Peke. You go high, I'll go
All
Peke.
right. And this, you're that.
Okay.
Anyway,
You're Jack.
that's all the slides we have. That's this or that. Use the hashtag this or that and tweet at LOL Esports if you have your own opinion on these things or thinks Kobe and I are incredibly wrong on one that we agreed on. Otherwise, just tell us who was better, and that'll do it.
What's up, Internet? Let's time to talk about Twitter because it's the best segment because it only includes me. All right, so last time we talked about Twitter, it was back before the midseason invitational finals, where, big surprise, we asked you who was going to win the whole tournament. And big surprise, the winner was SK Telecom T1, which 64 of you got correctly. So props to guessing the favorites the whole tournament. Good job. Very smart. I was not on that list because I was wrong. That's okay. The Hall of Fame question, though, was who was going to first blood whom in that final, and it was Bang first blooding Darshan, which sadly none of you got it right, so you will not be joining me in the PTL Hall of Fame. But that's okay, because now we get another chance. To do that, let's talk about TSM a little bit, because who doesn't love talking about North America's second best team? Or worse, who knows? Anyway, either way, legendary support Yellowstar did part ways with the team between the splits, and TSM have replaced Yellowstar with a new player, Biofrost, formerly from the Challenger scene. So we're going to talk about these two players and compare them, because of course Yellowstar's back on Fnatic, and I mean, their Fnatic are going to do well, probably. So, with these players in mind, let's talk about today's question, which is going to be, which of these two players will have the higher assists per game in week 1 of the LCS, Biofrost or Yellowstar? That's the basic question. Get it right and good for you. Flip a coin. I'm going to say Yellowstar, by the way. Hall of Fame question, though, is what's going to be the assists per game of that player? So for Yellowstar, I'm going to say 12.5 will be his average assists per game. Maybe that's too high, maybe I'm wrong, maybe I'm right, who knows, but you should do the same thing and try to guess what it's going to be. Guess it to within 1 decimal point, so you don't have to do like the 3 ... forever, you know, in case they do 6 games or something. So get those questions in, who's going to have more assists per game, what that number is going to be for the winner to get the Hall of Fame. Remember to send your answers to @LOL Esports with the hashtag PTL, and hopefully I'll see you in the Hall of Fame.
Hey everybody, Jack here with another edition of League of Learning, and today I'm going to be talking about Elemental Dragons. It's one of the biggest changes from the midseason, and there's a lot to talk about here. So first off, I'm just going to go over some of the basics. There are 4 different types: Cloud, Ocean, Infernal, Mountain. Obviously, Elder Dragon comes at the end, but in the first 35 minutes is just these 4. No more than 3 types can spawn in one game. You can get no more than 3 of one type in the same game, so you don't get these insane stacking scenarios where you have 5 Infernal Dragons. Up to 6 Elemental Dragons can spawn before 35 minutes, and then after 35 minutes, it's only going to be the Elder Dragon. And you should see teams contesting these much more, because these dragons are all more powerful than the dragons you saw last year. And contrary to popular belief, every single dragon is actually very strong. And I actually think they're very close in power. They're just strong in different parts of the game. So let's go through them one by one a little bit. First up, I want to talk about Cloud Dragon, because most people think this is the worst dragon, but I think that's just not true. I think it's very close in power to all the other ones. It only grants 15, 30, or 45, based on the number of stacks, additional movement speed out of combat. And compared to some of the crazy things you get from the other dragons, this doesn't seem like much. But the rewards this can give you through roaming and getting to objectives first are so strong in the mid game. It's not going to help you that much in the laning phase because you're almost always engaged in combat. But as soon as you start moving between lanes, it helps your ganks. And when you kill someone on the other team because you're there first, you get a lot of advantages. So I think Cloud Dragon is definitely the most underrated of the dragons. Another dragon here is the Ocean Dragon. This one, when I first started playing with it, I thought it was the most powerful dragon because the amount of regen it can give you, especially on mana-hungry or health-dependent champions like a Soraka, Sona, or Swain, it's incredible. Really late into the game, it's not going to be as strong because the fights are very explosive. But in the mid game, when fights aren't quite as explosive, if you don't die, your ability to stay out on the map is incredibly powerful. And I think that's the biggest strength of the Ocean Dragon. The dragon everyone thinks is the most powerful because it's the most visceral is definitely the Infernal Dragon. It grants 8 to 16 to 24% increased ability power and attack damage against champions. So it's not going to help you kill minions or objectives, but it's going to be that raw power in fights that everyone really wants. But if we think back to the first dragon buff from last season, that was 6% attack damage and ability power, and that wasn't very strong in the early game. So Infernal Drake follows the same power curve, where it's not that great early, but then it scales up in power as you get more attack damage and ability power to multiply. So still a very good dragon, just not insane at all stages of the game. And then Mountain Dragon. I said Infernal Dragon was good in the late game. I think Mountain Dragon is even better in the very late game because the 10 to 20 to 30% additional pre-mitigation damage to epic monsters and turrets is insane. That means if you have 100 attack damage, even with the first stage of the buff, every auto attack will do an additional 10 true damage to that objective. And because Elder Dragon and Baron are such incredible objectives late game, the fact that you can take this with a couple buffs at close to double speed makes it insanely powerful in the late game. And I think post 35 minutes, this is the best dragon to have picked up because of that objective control. Obviously, after 35 minutes, we get to the Elder Dragon as well. It spawns after 35 minutes. It's on a 10-minute cooldown timer, so when you get it, there's a bit of a cooldown period afterwards because the buff itself only lasts 2 minutes and it gives some pretty powerful things. It enhances the previous dragon buffs by 50% to make you even stronger with the ones you've already obtained. And then it also gives you this Cruel Ultimatum 2-minute buff, which is a strong true damage burn. And the more dragons you have, the stronger that burn becomes. So it makes siege situations just laughably easy if you have this dragon buff because you kill the enemy team so quickly. And as an encounter, you can't necessarily rush it unless you have the Mountain Dragon because the health is actually exactly the same as Baron Nashor at 35 minutes into the game. So definitely not your everyday dragon, much more powerful, and you need to be careful when you take it. So that was a lot of information on dragons. I hope you learned something.
Hey everybody, Deficio and I are joining you from across the pond to give you the lowdown on what's new in the European LCS. Now, we have had an avalanche of roster swaps, and we are just going to have to go diving right into it.
Yeah, I feel like every offseason in Europe we have a lot of changes, but this one, every single team now has made changes. Some of the teams even made 2 or 3. Yep. It's kind of crazy overall. Obviously, one of the big ones that's always jumping out is the G2 acquiring the new bot lane, or getting the new bot lane in Sven and Mythia, taking them away from Origin.
Swapping all the way back to...
And then Hybrid, of course, going back to Origin here, and Forgiven joining as well. Was a free agent, actually had announced he wasn't going to play in the summer split, but then Origin came knocking on the door, and the chance of him going to Worlds. So crazy swaps between those two teams, obviously down in the bottom lane.
Yeah, and we've also got to talk about some players returning. You know, Yellowstar coming back into Fnatic. A lot of people expected it. A lot of people rumored about it, but finally got confirmed. And that's a huge thing for Fnatic as well. And then Freeze coming back and joining H2K. I mean, this is a big deal all across the board. We're getting some of our players back from the Exodus.
Yeah, and I really like this Freeze storyline because he was a guy who said he wanted to try and compete for the top spots. You know, he wanted to go to Worlds. He said that before he even went to North America, and then he joined Renegades, a team you didn't expect to do that well, a team you didn't expect to suddenly try and qualify for Worlds. Now he's back in Europe, he's finally joining a top team. This is his time to shine and show that he's actually good enough, and that H2K can perform in playoffs with Freeze.
Yeah, but of course, they're not the only ones coming back, too. We've got to talk about our new Koreans. There's 7 new ones in the European LCS this split, and some of them are coming in with a lot of hype. I mean, look at a guy like Parang. He joined with Raze onto Rocket, and he had a magnificent performance on Stardust in the Korean challenger scene.
Yeah, Parang is a guy where when you read the Korean forums, because obviously we understand Korean, we totally do not have
kind of like
someone we can
sports.
ask about it, no. But the Korean fans are pretty hyped about Parang, especially up in the top lane. From what I've seen in the Korean challenger scene, he could play a bit of everything. He's also, funny enough, known for playing Jace top quite a lot, but he can play tanks, he can play carries, he can play utility. I'm pretty excited. I talked to Rocket's coach, Grabs, as well, about him. He's like, this guy's good. This guy's legit. Like, great team player, good mechanics. Parang is one of the guys we need to really, really, really look at this split. He needs to do well for Rocket to suddenly climb into playoffs.
Yeah, now, is there any other Koreans you want to take a look at in particular?
I mean, Pyra, I'm glad you're asking. There is one. It's the Mighty Bear.
We got to go into it.
I mean, Mighty Bear is like, I'm looking at him as like the new Huni type coming. Extremely funny guy.
Does seem to have a good personality.
He's so happy all the time. And also as a player, obviously he's been in China. A Korean player who's been in China. We've seen it before. He comes back to Korea. He's practiced quite a lot in solo queue, and then Vitality scouts him and picks him up. He's super excited for to see him because he comes in with this new motivation that a lot of European players don't have. Constant focus on practice, improving, great mechanics, understand how to skirmish. This guy will be a good player, and I just want to see if he can actually take Vitality further than the quarterfinals.
We'll have to find out. Now, of course, we're going to go all the way back, and got to be some bad blood now.
I mean,
got to think.
Everyone here wants to prove they made the right decision. Origin wants to prove they made the right decision and picking up Forgiven and Hybrid as the replacements. It's game 1, obviously. It's going to be massive. I'm super hyped for it.
Oh, yeah, that's going to be incredible. Now, OG and G2 will kick off the summer split in the LCS Arena. That's this Thursday, of course, at 5 p.m. Central European summertime. But don't forget to check out and tune in to both streams to follow all the ULCS action this summer.
Nice reading.
And now it's time for Know the Pro, where we see just how well you know your pro players. I know mine. Do you know yours? During the week, we gave you a glimpse of one of the latest additions to the LCS. And if you're up to scratch on your roster swaps and signings, this shouldn't be too hard. Let's find out. If you guessed Bjergsen, you're wrong. If you guessed Alframu, maybe. If you guessed Stixxay, probably not. But if you had guessed Energy's newest AD carry, OQ, then you should be smirking a little bit. OQ played in Korea for 2 years, in which time he featured on the Najin roster before moving across to the North American Challenger Series, where he played on TDK, where he amassed an 8.29 KDA across 6 games. Now he finally has a chance to prove himself in the NALCS, and you can watch him do so in his opening game against Team Envy on Friday night for some good old Friday Night League. Welcome back, Freak. We were just about to start talking about the NALCS preview, and where better to start than with championship points. Let's recap the all-important points that can help teams book their ticket to Worlds, even if they don't win the summer split. Seems pretty great. Yeah. Here's how the standings look after the completion of the spring split currently.
CLG in first place. Their fans going to be happy about that one. TSM in second. Immortals in third. Liquid. I mean, you just say Liquid and you all know what we're talking about there. Cloud9 Energy also made the playoffs, got 10 points each, lost first round though, so, a little bit might help them out here. And it's up to everyone else to pick up the slack.
Yes, the rest of the NALCS spot there kind of needs a few points, so that is what they're gunning for.
SKT has 0 points in the NALCS championship circuit as well. So, I mean, really, it's good company to be in.
They're just, the points don't even matter.
Yeah, SKT and I had the same amount of points in the NALCS.
This is true. So if we're talking about the summer split, then we should start with Spring Split champions Counter Logic Gaming, the ones with the most points. After their stellar performance at MSI and making the finals, they will come into the summer split with an unchanged roster and as favorites for really the first time in the LCS history.
Yeah, honestly, you think about CLG in the entirety of CLG, they haven't really been a top dog since 2009. And now, finally, I think they're actually a really heavy favorite to be number 1 or number 2. And I think everyone should believe that, and it's probably true. And that's insane that CLG is actually showing, no, we're actually good this time.
And coming into this split, as everybody says, maybe they're the ones on top. We have to look at going through this here. Are they going to have a mid-season slump, or is this the time they just catapult themselves forward and continue to hold it? And they have a chance to do what no other team has done with 3 consecutive splits in a row. If they're able to win each 3, something TSM and Cloud9 have failed to do even at the height of their dominance.
Right, yeah, they've gotten 2 in a row. I mean, TSM's won 3 overall, so you can't really hate on them for that one. But yeah, honestly, Gotta say, massive props to CLG from doing that well. And this is funny because they almost got relegated a while back. They played Curse Academy to 5 games in 2014. Then by the end of 2015, they won. 2016, they won. And again, this was after they picked what people thought were downgrades in the mid lane and AD carry role.
Yep.
Afro, if you haven't watched the duos video about Afro and Stixay, you should. It's actually really awesome. And he says, yeah, Stixay, you're the best like bot lane partner I've ever had. Yeah. So you should keep being you.
It's been one of the first times we saw a team not try to kind of grab big names from other teams or filter somebody in from a challenger that was already ready.
Well, and that's the funny thing, right, is like Team Dignitas did that. They grabbed a lot of unknown players for the most part, right?
True.
It's like, why are you grabbing Smitty J and Kirei? Like, what is this? But that was the belief. Like, no, these guys are worth it. But here's CLG doing that sort of choice. You'd be like, no, we trust in these guys. You don't know about them yet, online internet, but trust us. And they were right, and that was good. Like, we've seen that backfire, but we've seen that work really well.
Showing up on the international stage has done a lot for that team, the fans, and we'll see what they can continue to do. Cloud9 will step into the summer split with a stacked 10-man roster. Their starting LCS lineup includes former world champion Impact now, Bunny Fufu, and will hail the return of Meteos. Balls, Rush, and High will take a step back into the challenger team.
Yeah, so here we go. Here's C9 coming into the split without High yet again. It worked terribly last time. Yeah. I hope for their sake it does work out a lot better, but you're right, it's Meteos back in. So, I mean, he's got a ton of fans going to be happy about that. You got Impact now on the roster. This is the first time Balls hasn't played for C9. I mean, basically, you've only got Sneaky now left as the only original C9 player to have played every single game with the team. I mean, assuming that lineup hasn't changed, but they've declared their Game 1 roster. So, this was the team that never changed anything. And, I do hope that this roster does work for them.
We'll see what happens. It's going to loom in the year. Does High come back? Can they kind of break that stigma? We will have to see. The difference between regular split TSM versus playoff TSM as we move on is well documented. Last split, they went from a 6th place team to one team fight away from winning the 2016 Spring Split Championship. Now they have a new support in challenger player Biofrost and will hope to continue their streak of finals appearances and hopefully take this next one.
And honestly, all eyes on Biofrost right now. Like, where can he pick up from where Yellowstar left off? Individually, honestly, Yellowstar didn't play all that well at TSM, so there's not the largest shoes to fill right now for Biofrost, but still, he's a player coming out of Challenger. I mean, TSM did this with Glebe a few years ago, and that went really poorly, where just Glebe didn't really acclimate to the stage very well, and they jumped over and grabbed Lost Boy mid-split. Biofrost, I mean, I do hope he does well. I think he's a bit better suited to make that transition. I liked what I saw from him in Challenger. He played on Dream Team. It was actually pretty solid. But playing at TSM in the LCS is a whole different animal, and it's going to be hard for him. But, cautiously optimistic is where I'm sitting right now.
The montage always shows that you would see online a player going super aggressive, but we see LCS that makes that so tempered.
Right.
People pull back a little bit.
I mean, we've seen Bunny Fufu montages as well, and his 2 games with C9 wasn't very good at the beginning of this year. So it's how they mesh with the team, right? And it's a question mark. Again, cautiously optimistic.
A lot of pressure.
Yeah, ton of pressure, and honestly, we just have to see.
All right, moving on. In terms of win percentage, Immortals had the best regular season split in the NA LCS history. Pretty impressive. Though when it came time for playoffs, they stumbled. Call it nerves, call it misreading the meta, call it whatever you want. They will be looking to make amends here for the summer split.
And this is a team I think some people are actually overlooking, and this is why I say CLG is like 1 or 2, because Immortals is that other, I think, really clear 1 or 2. They were so freaking good.
Yes.
They had 3 losses on one day, and that was it. Like, other than that, they were still the perfect team. I really do think this squad can go incredibly far. Huni is still insane. We saw he was able to go and play big dumb tanks, and that was fine. I mean, I would prefer if there were more top lane carries out there available. We know Swain's actually up there as a great champion that only some teams have picked up. I urge strongly that Immortals learn Swain because he's amazing right now. But yeah, Cinderhulk got buffed, so Rainover can go back to playing Rek'Sai Cinderhulk and feel good about that. And I think Pobelter, Wild Turtle, and Adrian are still amazing. And he can find champions that aren't Soraka even after she got nerfed a couple of times. So I think there's just only good things coming ahead for Immortals.
Still going to be an incredibly tough team to beat. They said at the end of the season, we got in our own heads. We thought we didn't have to switch like everybody did in the meta. And it hurt us.
And I mean, they were right about some of this, right? Like, they kept playing Soraka and Janna, and it did work every single time.
True.
And as we found out from MSI, guess what? Rage Sport's the best. So, I mean, Adrian was actually ahead of the meta, and everyone finally realized it. You're right. The series against TSM wasn't very good. The carry tops didn't work out for those patches, and I think, that was actually wrong for them to think that was the case, as we eventually learned. But yeah, I think they're on a good footing here.
All right, as we continue, Liquid may have finished 4th again, but this time they did it with 3 rookies on the starting roster. The team has shown a ton of promise and will be looking to see if they can continue to grow this split.
So this is going to be interesting, right? So Liquid, yes, the rookies grew really well. Matt became a, I would say, decent to good support for NALCS standards. Lorlo, he's a role player. He's not great, but he's doing his job well enough. But here's the thing is now, what's the future without Dara? Right? Their announced starting lineup, if we're allowed to talk about this, is Moon in the jungle role right now. And Moon didn't do great on Energy. Now, that could have been Energy's environment. Liquid could do a much better job with this one. Back in Challenger, Moon and Lorlo were pretty close, Moon and Dark were close in skill, and maybe the Liquid environment meant more growth in the Energy environment.
We did see highlight spots of Moon at the end of the season where it seemed like they put a little more confidence into his plays, allowed him to go forward in the team, but those were kind of far, right? Not very often.
There were rare glimpses of greatness in Moon. They were exceedingly rare.
Yes.
Right? Now, maybe he'll get a lot more, I tried to make the well done pun because it was rare and now it's going to be more often. Either way, though, maybe Liquid will be the right medium for him and he'll do a lot better. There we go. That was the better one.
All right. So Counter Logic's quest as we move forward to be the first NALCS team to win 3 straight titles kicks off this Friday when they take on TSM in our first stream from our new Battle Theater.
Hello, super fans. It's time for one of the better segments on PTL. It's the fantasy segment where we get to talk about picking the best fantasy players. And before we get into this, we want to make sure that you guys know that as we're moving into the new season, or the new split with best of 2s and best of 3s, there's 2 formats to go for. One format is simply the first 2 games per series of each player, which is equivalent between NA and EU. The other one is the best game per series from each player, which will bias you towards NA, as they're probably going to have, on average, a half more game per series. So keep that in mind if you're playing in that sort of regard when we start ranking these players. If you're playing best game, NA is a bit higher. But you know what? It's time to live everyone's fantasies. And in my world, that's bringing the wonderful, the amazing, the awesome Tom Searfoss onto the show to talk to us about PTL Fantasy.
Yeah,
what it do.
I figured I'd come on and help you guys at home here because the only number Freak knows in fantasy is first place.
Exactly. So we need to get more people up there.
That's true.
All right. So what do you have for us today? What's on the docket for fantasy analysis?
Well, first off, we took a look at a lot of players, all the active players in the LCS currently, and that's a lot of information. We have their numbers going back all the way to 2014 when Fantasy LCS started. And we put them together, and we're basically able to give you a great prediction of how they're going to perform in summer 2016.
Okay, so what is this prediction? What goes into it?
Well, the biggest thing that you really want to kind of learn to understand is the VOR, which is known as the value over replacement. Now, it's a little bit of information, so bear with me for a second. It basically judges how much better somebody is going to be than your last available draft pick in that round. So that way, when you're going through your draft, you get the best picks fastest.
So, for example, if Shifter's almost as good as Bjergsen, why first pick him? Why not go for someone like Huni, who's actually much better than other top laners?
Exactly.
Okay.
So one of the good examples is actually Vizicachi from Unicorns of Love, their top laner. Pretty solid top laner, right? Mm-hmm. But his VOR is actually going to be 0. He's the baseline for top laners. You look at somebody like Huni, who's had fantastic performances, and his VOR is off the charts.
Okay, so what are the top laners then?
So the top laners, you gotta obviously go for Huni. Impact on Cloud9 and Odwamne on H2K. Huni has actually the best VOR in the league, so he's leaps and bounds above all the rest of the top laners.
So he's the literal just like best first pick, period.
Probably the best first pick in the entire draft.
All right, there you go. So junglers, give me that one.
So in the jungle, it's a little bit different here. Trick, Reignover are the top 2. A lot of people kind of expected that at home. But the third top jungler is actually Santorin. Previously on TSM, he didn't have the best performance altogether, but his fantasy points were off the chart because he didn't really die.
Right, no deaths, like 11 assists per game, ends up getting a lot of points that way. So under the radar, but hey, Santorin's pretty great. How about mid laners?
Well, mid laners, we actually have a little bit of discrepancy, but not really a lot. The biggest surprise is Ninja being up at the top. He didn't have a lot of games in the LCS in previous splits, but his numbers were off the chart. But right below him are Fevvin and Perks. But the biggest thing you got to know about mid lane is the VOR spread is super close together. So even though you don't get Ninja, you're not really going to be upset about getting Bjergsen.
Right, and he's not even on the list for the top 3 is the funny thing. So mid laners probably should be going later on in the draft than overall. Keep in mind, I know I see like almost everyone first pick these guys. Actually, mathematically, not the right choice to go for. So give me 80 carries.
So 80 carries, that's another role that a lot of people are going to be picking up early on in the draft, and their VORs fluctuates a little bit more than the mid laners. Although the biggest surprise is going to be not Reckless and not Double Lift at the top, but Steelback actually, who's now on Rocket, has outperformed them almost double when you look at the VOR.
Yeah, I mean, he like hard carried Unicorns of Love last split, so big numbers on him, and honestly did okay in Fnatic the year before. So, all right, Steelback's really big. Give me supports.
All right, so supports, there's not a lot of surprise in there. Your top 3 supports from last split are pretty much your top 3 fantasy supports. That means Adrian on Immortals, Yellowstar back on Fnatic, and Hybrid actually over on Origin now are 3 of the top supports you want to look at.
And you think Hybrid's going to keep doing as well as he did on G2, which he probably will. Origin's a good team, then those are your top picks right there. All right, so fantasy points per game above people that are going to be in that same role. So big things there. Keep track of what he's telling you. He's a smart man, and we'll see you on the Fantasy LCS Rift. Good luck with your seasons.
The LCK started back up last week, and so far it is Samsung Galaxy, Jin Air Green Wings, and KT Rolster who are sticking their noses out from the rest of the pack. Though it is still early, and there are plenty more matches to come.
Yeah, talking about more matches, we are top of the standings.
This is true.
But honestly, also, when you say it's early, I think teams are still figuring out what's going on at 6.10, so you'll see just teams fumble that will get better later on in the split. That said, though, I think the top dogs right now, Samsung honestly impressing. We know that Jin Air and KT are always pretty good on their own right, so I do think we'll eventually see that shape up this way. SKT's first match will be against CJ. That'll be fun. That's coming out Thursday morning.
It's going to be a great matchup. Now over to the LPL, where it was a story of new faces and old talent. One such old talent was Uzi, who started for Royal Never Give Up in their series against Team World Elite and Vici Gaming, where RNG only dropped 1 game of 5.
Yep, Uzi's scoreline was ridiculous, like 41, 8, and 33, like a 9.25 KDA. That's pretty good when you're 4-1 overall. He's awesome. Looks like that's a good upgrade, and RNG are probably going to be the best team in China for a while. Talking about some of the other teams that are up there, though. Aimee, you guys may not know who they were. That was the former Edward Gaming B Squad, EDE. But again, much like LCK, this might be a case of teams having to figure out what's going on in the patch, and these standings could continue to shake up for a while until we start solidifying who the good teams are.
Shake it up, Worlds is only a few months away.
True.
It's crazy to think already. I know you're all excited about the LCS on its way as well, and the inevitable big plays we are going to see, though if you can't wait that long, we've put together a nifty little video to help you fight off the shakes, or as I'll never get to call it as support main, the Penta.
Dashing into number 5 from Latin America South, ISG's Pride came out on top in this 1v2.
De los mismos chicos de Isurus, por si acaso. El gran duelo una vez más. Element podría caer en la trampa. En pocos segundos llegaba Juliostito. ¡Wow! ¡Qué buena finta! Pride como esquivó todo. Desplazamiento de barriga y dejaba en coma Element. Se salva apenas. Y le podría ganar el duelo a Juliostito. Se está quedando sin manazos y Pride. Pero mira, el pulsar se perdió. ¡Cuánto daño! Intentó hacer lo imposible a Juliostito. No supo qué pasó.
Sneaking into number 4, Snake's tank set up Crystal for the quadra kill.
In goes Tank, you're exactly right. The claw can be used. There's the Tempered Fate, locks up the dragon. It is going to be taken there as ZZR grabs it. Look at the AoE damage coming out of Crystal and Tank. Massive work. It's in fact a double kill that comes down for ZZR, but it's a triple kill for the Twitch. Oh, actually, no, he actually grabbed the dragon. This could be a quadra kill now for Crystal as he's chasing after it. That is going to be it. The ace comes in. The quadra for the Rat.
At number 3 from Latin America South, Last King's Nifu calculated every second of this 1v1 versus Halfnet Esports Lesmar.
Cuidado, Nifu, mira cómo se lanza, Lesmar queda demasiado expuesto y no hay nadie cerca, pero está la torreta que le puede salvar el día. ¡Oh, qué pasó!
¡Qué error!
Se dio hasta la media vuelta, a ver si alcanza a aguantar lo suficiente. Viene el comeback. ¡Oh, cuidado! La definitiva por parte, no te lo creo, por parte de ese Angelus. Vuelve el tiempo y se salva y se la va a llevar Nifu. Muy bien jugado. Llega muy tarde la fuerza de Halfnet. ¿Podrá escapar de esta Nifu?
¡Wow!
Se va. Se podrá escapar el amarre cósmico y hasta el último segundo nos mantenía en...
Tempered Fate comes in. They have locked down the Baron. Tank right in the middle of it. Has the Zhonya's if he wants to. Has Flandre. He's now found his way in. Pentakill in trouble. As now Republic. He's been knocked up. Wushang has taken down Tank. But Pentakill has to deal with Flandre. He's on top of both carries. Can he do it? 1 versus 3. Saboki. There it is. The triple kill for Flandre.
And at number 1, it was KT Rolster with the miraculous base defense for the comeback victory.
Someday trying to go on the run.
Lamb's
It's on
Respite.
Lamb's Respite does keep him alive, but the Nexus is now exposed, and Maha is still, actually goes down. Big crits come through from Arrow, they finish him off. They're gonna try to keep him
gonna
alive,
hold this?
but this Nexus, it actually lives! They wipe out MVP, and KT Rolster are gonna keep the game going as we reach the 50-minute mark.
With super minions and such a low Nexus, not 5-man can they commit to mid lane, so there's no way to end this game despite the death timers, but they can still do their best to at least force down an inhibitor. Oh boy!
But actually, they're gonna go for it. They say it's do or die time. Someday coming in. Here comes Maha in just 5 seconds. The first Nexus turn going down.
This
the
would be
second
such
one
a comeback.
Getting burned very quickly. Here comes Maha. Let's see what he can do. Looks like they can't do anything. KT Rolster with a miraculous save at their Nexus. Come back and finish the game.
There's no doubt about it, our team of experts love hunting down the best plays from around the world. But they love it even more when you tweet at LOL Esports with the hashtag the Penta when you see those plays.
Right? Yes.
That's true. So, by now, SKT's trophy cabinet must be getting pretty full. You know, they've won so many damn tournaments. So we wanted to find out just what happens with all the silverware they're collecting.
Yes, let's go check in with the MSI champions for one final spring split last hit.
좀 가져가기 힘들기 때문에 만두형 감독님, 코치님 가져가십시오. 무거워요, 그치? 아, 너무 기쁘네요. 이거 가져갔어요.
Hello and welcome to Primetime League. I'm Irvington Bisson III. This Breakfast Club. Good start to the season.
Excellent. They'll never see it.